The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
You know, I'm not even worried that I'm going to offend my other guests. This is the one, guys. This is the one. This is the one that I just sit there and I'm like, come on, I got to get this scheduled right. I got to make sure everything can match up so that I can sit back and just do ladies' man quotes and chuckle and basically not have to say much after the first 45 seconds or so. Have I done 45 seconds? Is my job here done?
I must go have sex and wait for something to randomly happen. It will all work out. It will all randomly work out.
Score.
Would you like some of this oil lotion? It is delightful. It's a lemony scent, and it is delightful, Dan.
You should take the oil, Leon. It's pretty rough without the oil.
Yeah,
What's up, Dan Besbris?
That's not cool.
Welcome to Hoop Ball.
Welcome. That's right. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, everybody. I got the ITL guys on the show today. I have nothing but joy. I'm grinning. I know we're not on a video call, but I really am just grinning from ear to ear because I know this is going to be fun. I hope we can touch on some fantasy stuff, but at the end of the day, I'd rather just laugh for a podcast if I really had to make the choice. Lord Bogman, Lord Welsh, how are you gentlemen today?
I feel like you need to be lorded. Like we need the Lord podcast, and we'll have a song by Lord. It'll
Lord.
just be great.
Yeah.
I am Lord. Yeah. We'll just do the South Park version as our open. Here's all that has to happen. Bogman and I have been around for a while. We're coming into our 5th year of doing the In This League Fantasy Basketball podcast, which is incredible. Our listeners know that's where we started. The inception of In This League, which we are a very small mom and pop shop. But we started with basketball. That was the only thing we did to start. And as you know, we built the culture of ITL. It was built on humor. It was built on just the nonsense, Dan.
Yeah.
That's where we wanted to build this whole thing. And we built it all with basketball. And we are glad to be here with you.
I'm just, I feel so comfortable because when I got into the podcasting thing for this second go around for me, because way back when I had a sports betting podcast called Today in Sports Betting. That was 2008. That was like before anybody knew they could listen to something on a computer.
I did that too. We had one of those.
Yeah. Wasn't it fun to look at the listeners' numbers?
Oh yeah. We're like 55. Oh my God.
This is amazing. 50 people are listening to us. And it was probably counting like 40 of our plays of the episode.
Yeah, every time when you go to your own and refresh a few times, just make sure that everything is loading properly. Yeah, I've been down that lane before. But I got into the fantasy side and was like, you know what? I think Brewski is okay with the nonsense because I listened to the Cause and Brew show. I hope that there are other people out there that are okay with the nonsense. And then I got to meet you guys.
And you found us. Like, we should have been nonsense. By the way, I remember where I was going. Midway through my plug of ITL, completely forgot what I was even trying to get to. Where I was getting to it was over the 5 years, we've built a relatively good cult following. The people that love us, and there's probably no in between, probably no middle ground with us. But because they have so much, we've built a nice, good clique of people. And we like to do a yearly kind of a Christmas special. And one of the presents we got last year was some listeners chipping in, and they bought us land in Glencoe, and that enabled us to be lords. We are officially lords because we own land in some other mystical land called Glencoe. And like all Hoop Ball listeners need to do is just a couple rally together, get Dan some land, preferably next to us, like a plot. We could all have a plot next to each other. And then you can be Lord Dan Besbris.
Or someone get him knighted, and he can be one step above us. He can be Sir Dan.
Oh,
that's also good.
No, don't do that.
I don't deserve any of these things, but it would be pretty sweet if somebody got me like a centimeter. But I'm going to go metric system here because we're across the pond now.
I can also use a centimeter. What are we talking about?
Heyo.
Is this morning radio that we're doing? I tell you what we do need to work on is Dan Besbris' definition of a slow draft. Because what you signed us up for here was absolutely not a slow draft.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because I think we're going through the slow draft that you put together, the industry one. And apparently a slow draft is within minutes, not hours. And that was cool. You're like, just do a slow draft. It'd be really easy. And we're like, oh, okay, cool, Dan. That's great. We're used to like 4-hour clocks. We look, and I was like, wait a minute. This just started 4 minutes ago.
Why do I have 20 minutes to pick? I thought this was a slow draft.
Yeah, it was a half an hour. It wasn't, but it was turned off for 17 hours a day. So there was a very narrow window where you were actually on the clock. I probably could have gone longer.
4-hour clocks, and just the foreigners tough. You know what I mean? set up auto draft, foreigners. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go longer. As it turned out, a lot of picks were made during the downtime. My fear was that people would just sort of ignore it, and it would not advance at all for 17 hours a day, and we'd be slow drafting until like the third week of the actual NBA season. Like, all right, I got to ratchet this thing down. I got to make sure we get through like 2 rounds during the 7 hours that it's actually on the clock. And yeah, there was some rolling back that occurred. A lesson learned. It's the first mock draft, believe it or not, that I've actually organized with other industry people. I know.
Wow. I'm actually shocked. Did the person that took Carmelo Anthony in this draft apologize like he did when he took a 2-point shot in the most recent preseason game?
Please tell me what happened, because I missed it.
I mean, that's a Bogman thing, Dan. But from what I'm told, Carmelo Anthony took a 2-pointer and looked over to the bench and he apologized.
Yeah, he took a long 2, and then he ran back down the court. They're giving it to him, and he just said, "My bad." Like he said, "My bad" for taking a long 2. That's not what we do in Houston. We take 3s or dunks. That's it.
I do feel like, though, that's been the mantra of taking Carmelo Anthony for the last 3 years in fantasy. You take him, you're like, my bad, guys. So you just like, keep going. I got to take him. My bad.
I'm sorry. Bad. So I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch. I'd like to go through Lord Welsh, your picks first, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Lord Welsh has a family, so go to him first. I am a homeless orphan, so I'll go last.
That's fine. Bogman, you get to jump in and mock him if you see anything you don't like. Or
wow, I am looking through back on my draft. I have a really good draft. I did really good with you, industry.
Your auto picks were way better than
mine.
No,
I don't think I had a single auto pick.
Yeah, see,
set up.
He got the queue set up. By the way, you guys. I mean, listeners, you know, you've been on this show a million times. We go on each other's pods. This is the In This League crew at In This League Pod on Twitter, at Is It The Welsh on Twitter, at Bogman Sports. Give them a follow. Give them a listen. Before we even get into the picks here, we're going to break down the 9-cat roto results. Either one of you guys just want to throw something out to the listeners on the latest stuff at In This League, how they can find it, best places to go, all that. Do the full plug. I want maximum shill here for 30 seconds.
We'll do little shilling. How about this real quick? We are in Hell Week right now, and it's Hell Week for us because you may do a lot of episodes, here dedicated in a given week. Bogman and I do as well, but we do about 5 different sports. If you kind of look at the different podcasts, we do upwards of 11 to 13 podcasts a week. So for us to dedicate an episode every single day of basketball is quite a feat. We already do 2 in season, and we're doing that this week. So we're in Hell Week. We're dedicating an episode every single day to positional ranks. And it started on Monday with point guards. It ends on Friday with I was about to say catchers when baseball's on, with centers. And then we give our final prep into next week. And next week's episode, this is the only other thing I want to plug, and outside of what Bogman's got, is I want people to listen into the Monday episode because we have a cool announcement for in-season In This League stuff that might have to do with Dan Besbris, and I don't want to spoil anything, and we'll talk about that next week.
What the hell did I sign up for?
Hey, listen, baby, just a 5th sandwich. That's all. But yeah, just In This League, everyone check it out. If we are there to have a good time, there is definitely some good stat diving. We're like we're just an upped version of Dan. Like, Dan, you got a great voice. You're good entertainment. You're great information. We're good information and great entertainment.
Oh,
so that's where you're going.
Oh, poppycock. Your stuff is outstanding. Your stuff
Can you say that on this episode, on this show?
I can say poppycock. I'll say it again, and I'll say it more seductively the second time. Poppycock.
So check me out. That gave me the chills.
Check them out, guys.
More of that, please.
Check them out. Maybe they'll. Apparently, I'm doing something with them. I don't remember what the hell I signed up for. We got some good stuff coming out in this league. The podcast. That's crazy, by the way, that number of podcasts you guys are doing, and baseball playoffs on TV, which is pretty sweet. So let's take a look at the Welsh's team. Lord Welsh, you had pick number 7. Before we get into the picks, thoughts on basically drafting right smack in the middle of a 12-team league. That's my favorite spot to be, by the way, right smack in the center.
Well, I mean, I would have preferred 6 because I think there's just like a clear-cut 6 this year that there's no definition. I think some people might feel the same way about 7, but, the crowd, like, the top 6 is Anthony Davis, James Harden, Karl Anthony Towns, Curry, GA, and Durant. That's how this draft went, and that's the 6. So if I had 6, I would have felt great because all I know is I would get the best of one of those guys, which isn't even a question. When you get to 7, I do think there's a little bit more of a question. I know there would be some people listening to this that would say, poppycock. There is not. And they would say it's Jokic, or they might say LeBron James, and it might just stop there. So I took the next best. I went with Jokic. Obviously, big men is not quite the depth position. It really never is. And having a dominance at the big man spot was what I was hoping for, though I pivoted a little bit later in the draft. But I think getting Jokic at 7 allowed that. I gave deep thought to LeBron James, who you took. You were the next pick after me. But at the end of the day, it was kind of the top 6 was the tier. Jokic was his own tier. And then as you did with LeBron James, I clearly would have taken him at 8.
Yeah, I think that's top 6 is definitely its own little chunk. I more than anything, and I think you're correct in going with Jokic at 7. He feels like he's almost in a tier by himself. I was actually more sort of just looking at almost the entire draft as a whole. It's just kind of nice to not have to deal with 24 picks between your next one. You actually have
2 picks in 40 minutes either. So
I don't know. I actually like the close picks. That's always been. I know there's a lack of patience that happens with drafts, and you're kind of like when you're in the middle, like what you're getting at, you're just kind of always in the action. There's never too long of a wait. You get going. Me personally, I don't mind that. It's more about my decision making. If I've got a wheel pick or I'm pick 11 or 2 or something like that, when I've got 2 picks coming up, my decision making is a lot easier for me, regardless if I'm reaching or I'm getting value. I prefer that 1,000 times over than the middle. But Dan, you like the middle, and I think there's a crew of people that agree with you.
Yeah, the creamy middle. They don't call me.
I forgot about
such a
creamy.
gross word.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, had to do it. Number 18, your second round pick. Chris Paul, who is fairly polarizing these days, presumably because of the injury stuff. But, when he's on the floor, he's a first-round guy, and I happen to really like this pick, Welsh. If by some crazy miracle he hits 69 or 70 games, you got a first-round guy at pick 18.
Yeah, that was my assumption. And also, Jokic is going to do, as we had in this league, dictate guys like Jokic as a stuff and things player, where they're going to either get you out of position stats or they're going to kind of fill stat sheets, which we all would want. Chris Paul doesn't really hurt me in any area outside of maybe not playing games, so that's an absolute risk. Honestly, though, it was an easy decision. Here's the only change, and to be honest with you, if this draft were done now, I might have pivoted this way, and I don't think this would be popular with you at all, Dan, and I know it wouldn't be with Bogman. I'd be curious where people are at about it. I might have considered Ben Simmons there because Ben Simmons and Chris Paul, to me, I think they're in a relative range. I know what Simmons lacks in 3 points and percentage is
turnovers.
Yeah, well, in turnovers, there's the problem, but he's so elite in some of the areas. I just didn't want to go through that battle. And I'm okay with going through that battle. In this early mock, I kind of played it safe early on, especially with like a lot of industry guys in here. I felt Chris Paul was just a no-brainer here. I thought about Kyrie Irving, but Jokic and Paul, to me, when I look at the top 2 setup of most of these teams, I'm biased because I guess it's my team, but it's near the top. I mean, I like the Karl Anthony Towns, Ben Simmons combo. I really like Nader's Anthony Davis, Donovan Mitchell setup. And I like Bogman's Joel Embiid and Victor Oladipo one. But I don't really think there's much of a risk here.
No, I like it. You got yourself a center. You got yourself a point guard too, which is sort of everybody's. You don't have to pair them up, but it doesn't really hurt to do that.
Do you guys think
either.
it's ideal? Do you think it's like obviously you don't want to be hamstrung to like, I got to get a center and a point guard. That's how I have to come out of the first 2 rounds, regardless of like what order you do it in. But do you think?
I think it's ideal. But I think you're right. You don't want to be hamstrung if the best player is if the best player is Jimmy Butler, the best player is Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? I'm not going to skip a guy. I think you're still the top 2 rounds. You're still in the spot of I'm going to take the best player on the board. But I think if you are drawing it up perfectly, you leave with a point guard and a center, right?
It seems like, and we're going to get to rounds 3 and 4 momentarily here, there are a boatload of centers that are coming off the board in 3 and 4. Not a ton of really comfortable point guards in that same range. I think Kemba and Kyle Lowry are sort of the only ones in that 25 to 50 range where you're like, okay, this is a point guard that I can feel really comfortable with all season long. Whereas centers in that range, in this draft in particular, Rudy Gobert, Andre Drummond, Clint Capella, Miles Turner, LaMarcus Aldridge, Draymond Green, Marc Gasol, Al Horford, DeAndre Ayton, Nick Vucevic, if you want to throw DeAndre Jordan in there, but not a punt guy, John Collins, Jarrett Allen, all of those guys centers that came off in rounds 3 and 4. So I happen to think, in sort of an odd twist, that the point guard, grabbing the point guard early, might actually be more important than the center this year. But having one of each is pretty nice. There's a ton of wings late in drafts. That really hasn't changed.
And if you look at it, I mean, you can pick apart positionally, but if you want to stick maybe a little bit more traditional, there's only 3 teams that had like point guard center. It was myself, Mark Roberts, and Nader. Now, the second team with Harden and Love, I think that's adjustable, though there's some places that Love might only be a power forward. And then if I look at this, I think that's it. I think those are the only 3 teams that I'm looking at in here that have center point guard qualification with their first 2 picks.
Yeah, I ended up getting myself kind of screwed into a corner and had to take a center in the 4th round because I was loaded up on small men, so I may have waited a little bit too long. But this isn't about me. round 3, the Welsh, Bradley Beal, nice safe round 3 guy. He seems to me, as just a side, a guy that doesn't feel like he's going to be impacted by Dwight Howard as much as some of the other guys on that team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and if you look at team construction here, shooting guard as well. I mean, we just got done doing our shooting guard episode, and if you take away like crazy Yahoo eligibility where everybody qualifies at everything, everyone gets a participation trophy. It's the Millennial Basketball Association is what we're playing with. If you take away that, I mean, I've diversified my roster really, really well. And Bradley Beal is like a borderline kind of stuff and things player, elite points. I'm getting good percentages, high threes. I'm getting rebounds, assists. I'm getting steals. And I thought like him landing where he did was kind of a shock, especially with some of the players that went ahead. I don't mean to like pick apart other teams, but if you do look at the teams that started, grabbing for big men and centers that went before me. I mean, I love Nader's pick of Gobert, but Capella, Drummond, not necessarily their reaches, but then Miles Turner went in the 3rd, and then Devin Booker went before Beal, which I was shocked about because of just some of the injury concerns. And I guess I'm not that high in Devin Booker. So this is like the safest construction of a team I probably could have put together because I get volatile. I'm a volatile person personally and in fantasy. I'm not afraid to get in the mud, and I usually do. In this draft, it just so happened to with the rest of the industry guys. I mean, you guys could pair it out and you could look across the board. I would guess that I have maybe one of the top 3 safest teams at least the first 3 rounds across the board here.
I adore it. I hate getting into the mud. It's like you're building the Besbris team, and I'm just like sitting here going, I like this pick, I like this pick, I like this one. CJ McCollum in the 4th? That's the safest pick you could have taken there too. What are you doing to me here? You're making me so happy.
Well, but I mean, he also he shouldn't have been there. Like that was a bit of a drop. I mean, it's fine. But you look at some of the other guys, and you want to talk safety. Look at some of the other guys that went in the round. DeAndre Jordan went in the round.
Nah.
We had John Collins, Jarrett Allen that went in the round. Tobias Harris is fine, but Harris went in the round. I mean, from a value perspective, I mean, maybe DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan was a good pick by Mark Roberts. Like McCollum and DeRozan, if you take value and safety and then production that's recouped, those are the 2 picks. So McCollum, Beal, Paul, Jokic, I absolutely love it. And it would enable me to take a few risks a little bit later in the draft.
Honestly, every pick you made until the 8th round was one of my favorites you could have made at that spot. So this is a fun segment for me.
Oh, you and Bogman on the 8th round pick.
Yeah,
right.
not thrilled with the 8th, but 5, 6, and 7 here, and I'll rattle them off, and you can tell me your thinking on each of them. The Welsh got Hassan Whiteside at 55, Will Barton at 66, and Paul Millsap at 79. I mean, there is a tiny bit of risk associated, I guess, with Whiteside, but he was drafted in the second round last year, and he was still a top 40 guy on a per game basis. He just spent, a third of the year injured. If he's anywhere near 65 or 70 games, this is a massive steal. Will Barton, another one of your stuff and things kind of guys. Millsap, 3 months he missed last year. Everybody forgot how good he can be when he's healthy.
That has just repeatedly happened. Millsap has been forgotten about in like every single.
Well, actually, it happened in this draft. I forgot about Millsap when I took Barton. I remember we having a phone conversation about this. Yeah. I think this was one where I had my queue set and I had Barton up. I took Barton off the queue and then I went, damn it. Because I wanted Millsap so bad. He's a player I'm absolutely targeting. Everyone forgets about going late. And I was astonished that he came back to me and was ecstatic. And then Will Barton I had targeted because, like you said, I think he's like the stuff and things light type of player. He gets you stuff across the board. And if you look at my team, Jokic, Paul, Beal, McCollum, look at the percentages I'm able to get with my guards and my free throw percentage. That's going to help with Whiteside. Whiteside's not the best free throw guy, but this isn't like a punt situation. And then I add more guys like Barton and Millsap are going to do me fine. I was able to subdue the negatives of Hassan Whiteside, maybe took him a little bit high, but I also didn't have to necessarily go crazy reaching on centers. And I thought Whiteside and Jokic was a killer combo to go with my guards, and then I added in Barton and Millsap. Like I said, this is like ideal for me, and then it comes to Dan ripping apart my 8th round pick.
Well, I can't love all of them, right? Because I'm just gushing about your top 7
Wait
here.
till he gets to my team. You'll hear enough ripping. So.
Well, when we get to the 10th round pick, you'll hear lots of hate.
Dennis Smith Jr. was round 8. I don't. He's not my cup of tea. I will leave it calmly at that.
He's not a rookie, though. You're not allowed to have the same hate anymore because he's now a sophomore. Let me ask you something, Dan.
Yes.
I'm going to get your take on this. Do you not think that a guy like Luka Doncic, who God knows where is he really going to play? Is he going to be point, power forward, whatever it is? He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to run the offense as well as Dennis Smith, maybe going back and forth. You don't think Luka Doncic makes Dennis Smith better and puts him in a position to be more successful? Or, do you just think he's a 40% field goal shooter and he's kind of marred down by some of the other talent on the team? Is that it?
Yeah, basically. More or less.
See, I'm in the opposite end. I think he's a super talented player. I think we're going to see a restructure of stats this year. And I think Luka Doncic, him taking the ball and getting it out of Dennis Smith's hands, might actually put him in a position to be a little bit more efficient, especially if Luka is setting up shots instead of Dennis Smith trying to set up shots for himself.
I think that you could end up being right. I also think he probably would have fallen another round or two.
Okay, that's fair. That I could give you that if you think he was going to fall another round or two. Who are the guys in this round? Levine, but look at the guys in this round: Levine, Harrison Barnes, Jordan Bell, Jabari Parker. I loved Bogman's Larry Nance pick. I was pissed off about it there, and but there's only a few. I guess I'm cool with it. You can totally pick it apart. I'm just big on Dennis Smith Jr. this year, and I think he's going to improve, and I think Luka makes him better.
Well, in the 9th, you came back to a gentleman that I do like, so that's good. Timmy Hardaway Jr. I think there's fantasy stuff to go around in New York. I don't think Kristaps Porzingis plays this year, which makes all of these guys, in my opinion, probably worth about a round higher than most people are taking them. So this one, to me, that's right back in your very safe and very strong bucket.
Porzingis went in that round, too.
Yeah, he did. I spoke to Mark, and I don't know what order all these podcasts are going to air, so people listening, they're like, what do you mean you talked to Mark? He actually said he kind of regretted taking him about 5 minutes after doing it.
Yeah, I would too. Nader got me here because Rondae Hollis-Jefferson would have been my pick in this round for sure. But this was another scenario. Like I got my guys. I was holding my bag of players, and I felt every round, I would say, but Hardaway and Barton, I felt I was getting deals and I was getting solid production. The team construction made a lot of sense. Maybe Hassan Whiteside, a little bit not, but we know how big men go. But specifically, Barton and Dennis Smith Jr. were the only spots where I wasn't like, I'm getting like a crazy deal. I felt the same way about Tim Hardaway. I was like, okay, Mario Hezonja just went and Tim Hardaway is still on the board. I'm going to take Tim Hardaway. The team construction I have makes a ton of sense. And then round 10 is where I definitely took a risk. And I know it's not going to be a liked pick by Dan.
No, I can't kill you for this one because it's 114. And once you get to that part of the draft, you can pretty much, you just grab your guys.
What about no kings allowed, Dan?
Yeah,
what about rookies?
I hate them all. I hate him. I'm not going to take him at 114. But the thing is, I can't kill you because if he doesn't work out and you have to drop someone you took at 114, that doesn't hurt at all. You just yank the Band-Aid off, throw it out into the ocean, and let something else wash up on the shore.
Anthony went before I took Marvin Bagley.
Look who I took right in front of you at that point.
You took Gallinari.
I did.
You get to say nothing.
I get to say nothing. Here's what I'm shooting for at 113 with Gallo. I want 5 weeks of dominant Gallo, and
50
then
50 games.
That's
50 games. He pays off amazingly there.
Yeah, I don't even
more like 25,
and that's fine.
But
in a roto league, I'll take 25 games at like a top 50 clip, and then I'll just cut him loose. That's because again, you're at round 10, and that's why I can't kill you for taking a king. Because if it doesn't work out, who gives a crap?
Yeah, and that's how I felt. And like I said, I had been safe up to this point. Dennis Smith Jr., maybe a little bit of a risk. Every other pick was safe and built into the team construction. And then I just felt like I got more deals, not trying to jump ahead, but just doing the next 3 picks.
Yeah, jump ahead. I was going to bag them all together anyway. This is like shot in the dark rounds.
But 11th round, it's not a shot in the dark for Kyle Kuzma for me. I think Kyle Kuzma getting to play some of the 5 is going to be huge. I think he could put up some big stats. So in the 11th round, all in on Kuzma. Jaylen Brown in the 12th. I know everyone thinks he's going to take the big hit. Maybe he does. But again, what am I missing here? Jeremy Lamb went in this round. Reggie Bullock went in this round. I'm golden. I am Gucci with Jaylen Brown here. Marvin Williams in the 13th. Again, production, no Dwight Howard. And then I just took one of those like chalk guys I like in Josh Jackson in the 14th round defensively, and the Suns absolutely love him. And if you watch the preseason game they just had against the Kings, Josh Jackson comes in that game when Devin Booker's not around, and he just is trying to run that offense. So I think offensive output will be a little bit bigger. So yeah, I'm glad this was one of my better drafts. I felt that I did it with you and the rest of the industry guys.
Yeah, I love this draft. I think overall you just dominated the hell out of it. I think your team is better than my team by a pretty good margin.
Can we ask something here real quick? This is great. This is fantastic. Dan, you are a gentleman.
Don't you have to go? Don't you have a family to attend to?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to hold off for a couple minutes. I'm good. I'll go here in a couple minutes.
I even love the Marvin Williams pick. He's one of my old guys. I love the old guys this year.
Bogman's guy. How about Bogman? Bogman's had to sit here and just listen to this fantastic winner here. Bogman, what do you think about this team I put together?
No, I really like it because I feel like this isn't the way that you usually draft. You usually take so many more risks. I'm not. Well, I mean, I have to insult you a little bit.
He's negging you, I think.
It's probably because this is a roto and we usually do head-to-head and head-to-head. I feel like you swing for the fences a little bit more. You played it a little safer, and you were in a great draft position. So I think that all of this added up to you having a great team here. I'm actually with Dan as far as the only pick I don't like in the top 8 is Dennis Smith Jr. He's also a guy that I probably won't own in many spots. And other than that, I don't hate any other picks. They're all really good.
I'd say you definitely nailed where I was going, specifically roto. If I want to play roto, and I think I've said this a million times and everyone should know this, if I'm playing roto, I'm going to play it safe. That's going to be the plan. The plan is going to be to try to play it as safe as possible. It is for crybabies, 100%. But also, I think something that benefits when you do something like this, when you're playing with a bunch of industry guys, like everybody's got their mindset. You know what I mean? Like you're playing with these industry guys. People are running their own projections. Everybody in the chat room everyone was just hogging about their own projections, just waving their projections around. Oh, I love that pick. On my projections, that guy's 42. I love that pick. Oh, what a deal. Everyone just waving their projections around like it's a Friday night, and that's fine. But what it also ends up enabling is people start to take their guys. I'm not a person that's going to be like, oh, I have to get value, but I know where my players are. I know what team construction I'm looking for. And it happened to work out that people were doing some stuff that I'm not going to do. Like Bogman loves Enes Kanter, but Enes Kanter went in the 5th.
You just called him Enes Cancer. You can't.
Anus Cantor.
You can't do that stuff. Anus. All right. I hear your subliminal messaging. All right. You can't do that crap here. All right.
The industry mock worked in my favor because people were very locked into their own picks, and some people don't let drafts come to them, and that's
Thank
something
you for bringing
that I'm
that up.
very comfortable doing.
That is a wonderful point, and I think you actually expressed it in a much more hilarious way than I ever could, which is I've been talking a lot this year about how it feels like everybody is going one direction, and that not the band. Everybody is looking for the next shiny toy so that they can say, hey, I found him before anybody else did. But as a result, a lot of really safe, really strong sort of portfolio-driven fantasy guys are falling. And that's what your team ended up becoming. It's like, oh, everybody had to go grab a guy they think is going to be making this massive jump. But if they don't, then you shoot yourself in the foot, or you could just do what the Welsh did and take a whole bunch of proven assets, guys that have been doing it from like anywhere between 3 and 10 years, and build a really safe team. I feel like in
how
Roto,
you called that portfolio assets, by the way, because if you take a look at that, nothing against, like, I like Kyle Anderson a lot this year. Like, that's someone I would want to get. Kyle Anderson went around before Paul Millsap. Now, maybe some people are going to be totally locked into that, but like Paul Millsap is the player you were also talking about. Like, this is just a portfolio guy. Like, I know what I'm getting into. He does a lot of everything. There's built-in upside, but maybe it's safe. And the Kyle Anderson play is pure upside, and it may work out. But because that continuously kept happening, Wendell Carter went in the 6th round.
You're just getting old. You're talking about portfolios and stocks and bonds. You're playing it safer.
You want to know the most excited? You know why I hate being old, by the way? This is the worst thing about being old. Everyone has all their fun jokes and stuff, but I got so excited. Like, I don't make a lot of purchases. Like, I'll get weird about like money because I'll be like, ooh, maybe this has to go to something else. And I decided, and I got so jacked up, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do, Dan? You want to know?
I do, and I know you got to go, so this might be your...
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. This is my swan song. I went into my drawer, and I threw out all of my work socks because I said, you know what I'm doing? Going on Amazon, and I'm buying 15 pairs of Steve Madden socks because they're my favorite work socks on the planet, all different colors. And when I did that, I was grinning ear to ear.
Like,
and then when I
idiot.
got the sock, like a moron, like a loser would. And when I put those socks on and I felt how happy I was, I knew that the decline of my life happened at that moment. And then I felt comfortable just taking safe picks for the rest of my life.
Welcome.
Because that's where I'm at. Steve Madden socks and Roto chalk stock like
now all your
picks.
teams have to be named Steve Madden socks, by the way.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Should.
They're
really great, by the way. I get no plug for them.
Lord Welsh, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Welcome, welcome to the land of the crusty old farts. It's a pleasure to have you. At Old Man Besbris is thrilled. I think that you're joining the ranks. Go take care of your family. Lord Welsh, you the man.
Thank you. Sorry I have to bail out. You get all of Bogman. Everyone will be very happy. Go look at his loser team and know that mine's better. I love you both. Lord, Admiral, whatever we said, Knight, Dan Besbris, Lord Bogman. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, you guys, I'm sure, don't talk to each other too much.
I won't miss him.
I'm not even going to click hang up. I want him to be able to put a headphone back in at some point and hear the conversation. Like after his kids go to bed or whatever's going on right now. I want him to just pop one in and hear you ragging on his team. Bogman, what's up, my man? I kept you fairly quiet there, and I apologize.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time to speak here, so that's fine. I was kind of, I knew we were on a deadline, and I can sometimes run off on the tangents like the Welsh just did about his Steve Madden sock. So I was actually purposely trying to stay a little bit quiet. So, and also not the biggest fan of my team I put together here.
Well, tell me about your socks first. Before we even talk about your team, how are your socks?
My sock game is lame. I don't know what brand they are. They're black socks. I put them on when I wear shoes. I mean, I don't know what else you want from me about the socks. So I have some white ones that I wear in the wintertime when it gets a little bit colder. That's about it. So
I'm wearing Hanes socks. They're stellar.
I have some Hanes. Those are my white ones.
Yeah, they're comfy. All right,
they're cheap.
We'll start this.
$10, whatever. So
Target, baby. That's the way to go.
Right. That's right. Target and Wally world.
We're going to flip this thing on its head. We're going to go back to round 1. Bogman, you got stuck with the 11th pick, although Lord Welsh said he kind of likes having picks close together. You heard me say I don't. Where do you stand on that? Do you like being near a turn, or do you like being near the I'm not going to say it again, the core?
So I like the top 8 because you guys talked about the top 6, and while I do agree with that, the 6 are the 6. If I can get Jokic or LeBron, also, I feel like those are all pretty safe picks. So the top 6, Jokic, LeBron. So for me, it's really a top 8. So if I can get a pick in the top 8, I'm usually fairly happy. So, but I got 11 here. It's not my favorite spot. I would say that I probably don't like it, to be honest with you. But I don't really hate. I don't know. I feel like I had to piece some of this stuff together because it was so long coming back that some of my options were off the table. And so, when you're picking at an end, sometimes you have to make those reaches. And I don't necessarily like that spot.
I think I would far prefer 11 to 12. It feels like there's a little drop off between, because the top 11 here, AD, Harden, Towns, Curry, Antetokounmpo, Durant, that's the 6 that we were talking about. Jokic, LeBron, Kawhi is usually in that top 10 somewhere, and then you got Dame and Oladipo, who basically go back-to-back in every draft. And then you got some questions on your hand once you get to 12, 13, 14, that territory. You were able to, I think, at least in the first round with Oladipo, I felt like you almost didn't even have to think on that pick, right? He was just the guy because the other 10 of those top 11 were gone.
You mentioned it. It's either Oladipo or it's Damian Lillard. So I was kind of waiting to see which one was going to be left, and Lillard went one spot ahead of me, so I snapped up Oladipo. So yeah, it was kind of a easy pick.
Round 2, that's where the questions begin.
Yep.
Not necessarily because of the pick, just because round 1, there's really no question there. Joel Embiid at 14. He's a guy that's generally going in this area, and there really was no center you could take in the first round, and he is, by all accounts, one cut above the next big chunk of center. So you kind of had your choice here. Do I want to take this kind of tier 2 center, or do I wait for the next round and hope that one of my tier 3 centers is still kind of on the board? Talk to me about how you ended up with Embiid at 14. Did I get close with that guess?
No, you pretty much nailed that. But we were also talking about the roster construction early, and what the Welsh said was, if you're doing it right, you want to leave with a center and a point guard in the first 2 rounds. In my opinion, I know you said you're more about the point guards than you are the centers, because there is that, third, fourth-ish tier of them that usually go in the 3rd, 4th round. So you can get one of those guys for sure in most cases. But for me, I just wanted, I think this is the year to own Joel Embiid. This is his 3rd season playing at this point, and he played 63 games last season. I'm sure they'll baby him a little bit still, but is it impossible to think that he'll get like 72 games and only miss 10 this year, being removed from this injury? I think that's closer to possible. So I think I'm in that range of 70-ish games at least from Joel Embiid, and I think this is the year to own him, and he's a beast when he's out there.
You think he's able to get the turnovers under wraps a little bit? I mean, that was a glaring issue last season, and it might be the biggest glaring issue, which feels fixable on a team with playmakers like Simmons and now Fultz.
He could, but even if he doesn't, I don't know that, that's just the hit you take with a guy like that. So I think in some of the other spots, I am going to have a turnover problem with this team. I got a lot of guys that handle the ball, but I have some guys that aren't necessarily ball handlers either. So I don't know. I think on this team, I will probably have a turnover problem. I'm not necessarily punting it, but this early, I feel like you just got to take the best guy, because a lot of these guys early are going to handle the ball a bunch, and they're going to have turnover problems. But I'm not willing. If Westbrook was there for me, I still would have passed on him, especially in roto.
Yeah,
I'm
round
not a
two's
Westbrook
rough.
guy at all.
Round 2 is a weird one, isn't it?
It is. It's very based on your own decision. I feel like between, like you mentioned, after Oladipo at 11, because that's usually what happens, between 13 and 18, 19, you could put most of these guys in here. I wouldn't necessarily put most of these guys in here, but you can put a lot of these guys in here and not be surprised where they were taken.
Yeah, you might even see all of those guys fall outside of that range at the end of the year. It feels like a bit of a coin flip on a lot of those dudes, and I can't. The second round is irritating me this season. I can't settle on any of these guys, which is probably why I like the Welsh's Chris Paul pick so much.
You take Kyrie Irving because he apologized to all the scientists?
I took Kyrie Irving. I have no idea why. Because honestly, because the second round is giving me fits, and I felt like it was either Kyrie or CP3 at that point, and I felt like there was a little bit of a drop-off. Not a big one, just a little drop-off after that. I didn't feel super comfortable with either of those dudes, but if they're healthy, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I got LeBron in the first round. These guys both are good foul shooters. Both of those point guards are high field goal percentage point guards. And so I just was like, you know what, close my eyes. I'm going to pick one of these two and hope they stay healthy. That was really, honestly, this draft ended up being not superb for me. I think the 8 slot gave me fits. I don't know why, because I didn't get one of those, the absolute topmost 9 category guys, and then coming back in round 2, you're sort of not guaranteed one of the first few picks in that round. I'd almost prefer to be at the very end of the first round or at the very end of the second round, because then you don't have to make as many choices. The pressure comes off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Kyrie will be fine. He'll be a
the best
guy.
third round pick, by the way, I think, out of anybody.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what he was doing at 32. I got Kemba Walker at 32 with no Dwight Howard in Charlotte. I'm big pro Hornets guy this year with D12 gone. This one was like super easy. And then you got the other really safe point guard in that round. This is very much a Besbris pick. You got Kyle Lowry at 35.
Yeah, I know our buddy Jonas likes to say, hey, Kyle Lowry has never seen a fantasy playoff game. But that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, he played last year.
He was up to 78 games last season, so he only missed 4. Now, maybe that was his first time seeing a fantasy playoff game. But, yeah, he's fairly safe. But it kind of adds to the turnover issues that I have taking another point guard this high, but I didn't have one yet. And like you mentioned before, you kind of have to come away with a point guard. I was going to take Lowry there, but I did think about Marc Gasol a little bit, and he went one spot after me.
Yeah, it came off the board right after. And you only had the one guy picking twice between your picks, which is kind of a rough spot, because then you're left guessing like, all right, I got these 2 dudes I want to draft right here. Which of them is going to get back to me 3 picks later? You have Al Horford at 38. He's another pretty safe pick. He seems like he won't be too heavily impacted by all the Boston wings. His game isn't really predicated on scoring all that much. He's getting a little bit older, I suppose, but, worst case scenario with Al, it feels like he has a really safe floor kind of pick.
Right. Now, I will say that every time I own Al Horford, and it's okay, people, this is just a mock, so you don't have to go trade him right now. But every time I own Al Horford, the shoulder crops up. So I do try to pick him up in a bunch of leagues because I love Al Horford, but it seems like he lets me down every time. One of these times I'm going to take him, and he's not going to let me down. So I'm going to say it's this year that happens.
Yeah, how many of these, really, knock on wood, how many of these freak accidents can truly happen to Al Horford? Round 5, this is where you start taking a few more risks. You got Luka Doncic.
I will say that this was a 20-minute auto pick.
Aha, okay, that's fair.
This isn't one like I saw, people were asking to roll back, and I looked and I was like, you know what? I'm all right there. I'm okay there. Because I kind of wanted Conley to fall, and I think what I had done was I had said, well, Conley's not going to go 1 pick ahead of me, right? And like an idiot. And I put Conley on my auto, and then he did go, so it took me the first guy on the ADP, which is fine. I like Luka Doncic. I think this is probably the one rookie that you could take in the top 5 rounds and not him and Ayton. I think Ayton has a pretty set in stone role for the Suns as well. So, but Doncic is going to be out on the floor. So, I have a bunch of guards now, so I'm pretty much set at guard from this point.
So you got a guard in the 6th round.
I did, because he was the best player available.
There you go. Sweet Lou at 62.
And I'm just a sucker for Lou Williams. I mean, I love taking a guy that can shoot threes, and he does a little bit of everything as well. I thought about Prince and Barton were the other two guys that I was thinking about. But I really like Lou Williams. I'm a little bit of a homer on him, so I snapped up Lou.
Well, luckily, I got Prince and Welsh got Barton, so we took care of it on this podcast.
That was you? Okay.
If nothing else. Then you went big men the next two rounds, so you weren't lying. You went big man, Serge Ibaka at 83, Larry Nance Jr. at 86. So I know everybody wants to kill you on Serge. I'm not going to, because he's sort of quietly durable in his not terribly exciting fantasy demeanor. This is probably about where he ends at the end of the year. He's probably going to be about a top 100 guy on a per-game basis. He's probably going to play 77 games, and that'll make him a top 85 guy by totals. So it's not going to be fun. Like, nobody's, as Mark Roberts likes to say, nobody's going to be high-fiving you for this pick, but it's probably about where he's going to be.
Yeah, and I think I have assists and steals wrapped up pretty well, right? So I got my threes when I got Lou Williams, and of course Lowry takes him, and a bunch of those guys. Even Embiid will shoot a three every once in a while, so I'm okay there. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking. I need a big guy. I need some boards. I need some blocks. I think Serge was kind of an easy pick there. Like you said, safe. Not necessarily my favorite pick of the draft, but when I look around, I'm like, okay, I'm not the biggest Sharch guy. I have guards. Millsap's gone. I'm never going to take Brook Lopez. So yes, I thought Serge was fairly safe.
Larry Nance, this is a fun one. This is one of those guys. I mean, okay, so I think
I like this a lot better when we did this draft.
Less so than now, you mean?
Yes, because they kind of said that they're going to go back and forth between Larry Nance and Tristan Thompson to start. Now I know that they'll both get minutes, and that's fine. But it is kind of annoying. And I'm a Texas fan. I love Tristan. I mean, I think he probably cheats on all of his girlfriends. You need to get that under wraps. But I do like Tristan from watching him at Texas and stuff. But I think they got to go with Nance more at this position, don't they?
Yeah, they do. So the fear there, though, is that basically anytime Nance has been given more than about 26 minutes a game, he's hurt himself. But when he gets about 26 minutes a game, he's an excellent 9-category fantasy center. He racks up steals from the center spot, which is fun. Good percentage from the field. It's mostly dunks for Larry. As a former Laker, I like him. A Laker fan over here. 86, I don't see how he could really be much worse than this. I think the ceiling may be a little bit capped because of the injury stuff, but I think this is a really nice pick. I think he's a good center to get at this point in a draft. There just aren't that many others that can put up the types of numbers he can with the type of floor he has. You can see the other centers drafted around this one, by the way, is Ibaka, if indeed he has center eligibility in your league, which you got him. Dwight Howard, who's a punt guy. Jordan Bell at the end of the round. I mean, there really aren't very many, and I ended up kind of getting screwed by this because I think I was looking at Nance and then thought, crap, okay, well, Zach LaVine's still on the board here at 89. I don't see any other centers I want to take for a round and a half. And ended up having to take Derek Favors at 104. And I think he's my second center that I took at 104. I know. This is why I wasn't super thrilled with how my draft went. I needed to get another center earlier on.
People do forget about Favors, so it's not horrible.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Get him late.
He'll be fine, but it's not the guy you want to be leaning on as your number 2 center. Maybe like the third one you plug in every once in a while. In any event, I like Larry Nance Jr. I think that's solid.
And the thing I'm doing here at this point is I'm kind of piecing my team together, which is not something that I necessarily like to do. But once again, you're drafting at the end. You kind of have to take what's left for you with the scraps and all that stuff. So I don't necessarily feel like it's horrible. It's a horrible team build, but it's definitely pieced together. I have a couple injuries happen, and I could be sinking in those roto standings pretty quick. So, but I think I did fairly good up to this point.
Elfrid Payton at 107. Not my favorite. I'm one of the more anti-Elfrid folks, but feel free to sell him to me. Sell me on Elfrid.
Well, I think that this is another guy that's going to get assists, and assists are hard to come by right? So at this point, I'm kind of going with the best player available. I've always been an Alfred guy. I think that, once he settles into a role and realizes he is a bench, a bench guard and not a starting guard for a team, he seems to be taking it a little more seriously, cut all that hair off. So I know that he doesn't shoot very well from the line, and that's annoying about him. But I've already got threes locked up. He doesn't shoot them, half a three a game. I'm just looking for assists here. I'm just trying to build on what I have, be dominant in some of these categories because of the fears that I have about possible injuries. And that's why I'm adding Elfrid Payton. It's really, I do like Elfrid Payton. I've been taking him late because he's a high assist late player, which are rare in fantasy basketball drafts. And I don't know. I like this pick. This one I think is actually pretty good.
TJ Warren at 110.
Not sold at all. Dan just skipped over.
Yeah,
not sold at all.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to sell me on Elfrid. But
what did Elfrid do to you? Why do you hate him?
I don't know. I mean, he didn't punch anybody in the face. At least I have a reason for hating Bobby Portis.
Did he lose you a league or something? I mean,
no, I don't know. I've never even really had him. I just always felt like I have no idea why I hate him. There's no good reason.
Because he's still under 30. Is that why?
That might be it. It might be it. Talking about his fancy music and his not Steve Madden socks. TJ Warren at 110 is the next one. Lord Bogman. So here's the thing, I think, when I come back to all these things. I really don't clown on any picks after 100 because I often end up dropping those guys in my own league. So, that's why I said sell me on it. TJ Warren's an interesting one. He was a guy who sort of showed a new fantasy stat set last year. He was a dude that I didn't really believe in and started to turn a corner a little bit. There's a little more of a logjam in Phoenix than there was previously with Jackson getting a year older and Trevor Ariza coming in. And Warren being more of a chucker type, but he was a decent percentages guy. He got scoring. He added some defensive stuff to his game last year. I'm a little worried about him getting squeezed for touches just with new bodies in town. But again, this is pick 110, so I can't really kill you for it, right? I mean,
this one I'm not the biggest fan of, but you look at my team, I don't have a small forward. So not until Luka gets enough minutes at small forward to qualify, which is we're doing this draft on Fantrax, is a little more on Fantrax than it would be on your ESPNs or your Yahoo site. So I just got to have a small forward at this point. Someone that isn't going to hurt me in a lot of categories. TJ Warren is kind of milk toast. As far as it comes to that, he's just a boring pick. He's just a boring, safe small forward that I can play there and not really worry about him too much. So I took a small forward, so I had that position filled, really.
That's milk with a QUE, everybody. Bogman brings the big bucks. You didn't want Gallo there?
No, I want a guy. Remember, I said safe, a guy that I can put in and know he's going to play.
Oh,
so, no, I do not want Gallo, which, I mean, at the beginning of the season, for most people, you would say, hey, it's the beginning of the season. When is he going to be healthier? I feel like for Gallo, that's his first opportunity to get really hurt is at the beginning of the year. So I don't want him at that point.
Rajon Rondo is the 11th pick. This is where I start to cluster them a little bit. You got Rondo at 131, Eric Gordon at 134, PJ Tucker at 155, and Colin Sexton at 158. This is an interesting, you sort of like flipped back and forth a little bit here. You got Rondo as the sort of weird bench assist guy in L.A. You got Eric Gordon as the three-point specialist. You got Tucker as maybe Carmelo Anthony will be so terrible that PJ just gets to play 40 minutes a night. And Colin Sexton as the rookie point guard. Okay, so Colin Sexton, maybe that's not really a Besbris pick, but the rest of these guys are old farts. You're going 3 out of 4 old farts here at the end of the draft.
Well, I love taking Rondo at the end of the draft. I think that he doesn't take enough shots to really kill you either at the line or from the floor. So he's fine there. He gets late assists. And to be honest with you, if he starts out, him and Sexton both, if they start out on fire, I think I can trade these guys. So because, like I said, getting late assists is something that is not easy to come by. And I am loaded up at assists. So I can do one of two things. If these guys are working out and they're playing better than we expect, and I know it's not something that, you wouldn't want to rely on Sexton, But if Sexton is better than I anticipated, I could flip one of my higher guys and get a position of need or a stat of need, whatever it may be in Roto. And I'm kind of buying on names at this point too, because Eric Gordon goes through a nice stretch where he's pretty good as well, kind of like Gallo every season. So, and he's stuck with the Rockets. They haven't traded him for Jimmy Butler yet. So he seems fairly safe to me. And once again with PJ Tucker, it's okay on the nights that TJ Warren's not playing. I need somebody else that can play small forward. So there you go.
Okay, so we've gone through the mock. You had pick number 11. One of the things that I've noticed here towards the end, and I mentioned it briefly earlier on, but I'd like to get your feelings on it as well. I think you're going to generally end up with the same chunks of guys available to you in the first 4 rounds of almost every draft, based on kind of where you're drafting, whether you're in like the top 3 or 4, or like the middle 3 or 4, or the last, or the end 3 or 4 of the first round. You're going to have the same chunk of guys coming back to you in the second round. You're going to have the same chunk of guys available to you late in the third and early in the fourth. It seems like, and you can tell me this is not what you went through if I'm reading it wrong, it seems like if you didn't take Joel Embiid in the second round, you'd almost be forced to take centers in the third and the fourth. You kind of have like one chance to get a big man early, and it's Embiid if you have a late first round pick, and it would probably be early in the second round, as it turned out to be for you. If you don't go that route, you would have ended up probably with Jimmy Butler. Would that have been your next guy on the list there?
Yeah, probably Butler. Yeah, because I love Chris Paul, but I'm afraid of them saying, yeah, we're going to rest him if we need to. Yeah. I don't like hearing that stuff about fantasy players. And, Kyrie Irving, a little banged up. I'm never going to take John Wall with those wonky knees. I'm just not going to do it. So, and I would have been, you just can't imagine how pissed I would have been if I would have skipped out on Embiid and missed Aldridge by 1 pick coming back. Yeah. I would have been very upset with that.
And then you're stuck with Marc Gasol and potentially, as it turned out this time, Al Horford, which is not the worst thing in the world, but Gasol is a low percentage guy as a center. He doesn't shoot the ball well. Al Horford doesn't score the ball very much. So then you kind of put yourself a little bit behind the 8 ball. Not that those centers, again, are bad options, but you're sort of stuck because if you don't get them, your other guy that Welsh was giving you trouble for, Enes Kanter, he didn't get back to you in the 5th round. And then there's just like, it's Valanciunas or
yeah,
who the hell knows?
There's in Valanciunas. Oh, I don't want any part of that. So yeah, I mean it's I would have been okay if I would have taken a point guard here because there are, like we went through, I like a lot of those late point guards, but I just don't think that there's one worth taking at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know that Kyrie is worth taking. I don't know that Paul or Drew is worth taking. That's why I hate picking in this spot at 11. If I could pick at, I would much rather pick in the top 4. I mean, and maybe that's an obvious thing to say for most people, but I just like the back end options because usually, even if it's Kemba, you can get Kemba coming back in the 3rd round, and you can take, whoever else, Kevin Love or Gobert or whoever. Kind of in that stretch, I just like that pairing, and I like the way you build your team much more drafting at the top end this season.
100% agree. I do think it's a big advantage this year. The two money leagues of mine that have already run a draft randomizer, I have 8 and 12. So lucky me.
Of course you do, right?
But I deserve it because last year I think I had like 4, 4, and 6, which was all right in my favorite wheelhouse. And last year went well for me. I bought a computer at the end of the year.
You know what you should do in those big money leagues? And you should have a bidding process for draft position.
Put in real bucks.
Put in a little more money.
Then I'd never get the top
pick. Spot you want.
I'm such a frugal stereotype. I'd have the 12th pick in every one of these leagues. I don't think I want to do that to myself. Oh, Lord Bogman, I don't want this idea to be out into the open.
Oh, sorry.
No.
You can cut that. Yeah. You have the power of editing.
Trimming it out. No, I'm not. I'm leaving that bad boy in. The ITL guys, by the way, I forgot to mention it earlier on, the code that we gave out on your podcast, we're going to ratchet that thing up by $1. It's going to be $3 off the Hoop Ball Draft Guide. That code is ITL. right? I think we just made it
That's
ITL,
right.
didn't we?
ITL. That's
ITL.
it.
That's the code. That is your abbreviation. Go check out In This League. Bogman, one last plug before you go. You guys deserve multiple ones, and you didn't get to do it earlier. The Welsh did.
Well, I let him take charge of that stuff usually. So you can find us over at inthisleague.com where we have everything covered for you. If you're in fantasy football, we have that. If you want to put your ear to the ground and maybe listen in on some college fantasy football, I'm doing that over there. We have baseball, which we actually just ended because basketball is running. But baseball is never far off. We run some the Welsh has Prospect 1 going over on minor league baseball still. And in November, first pitch will be out here in Arizona, and we'll be covering that there. And we just have the basketball, of course, we have you covered on all fronts over at inthisleague.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Bogman Sports, and you can please tag at Is It The Welsh and tell him, even if you don't believe it, it'll just be funny, that you love my team way more than you do his.
You heard it. Do it. That's all we ask of you. I am Dan Besbris. This is Fantasy NBA Today. Thank you, of course. A double mega super thank you to the In This League guys. I always have so much fun with you dudes. Have a wonderful day, everybody. It's a glorious Wednesday. What's not to like? Have a wonderful version of it. Coming up the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we will continue our discussion of this 9-category roto mock draft. We'll keep breaking it down. We still got Ethan Noroff. We still got Kyle McCune. We still got Mark Roberts in the bucket. It's hard, by the way. These are not being released in any particular order, guys. They're just I'm picking almost at random. And then Friday, we got Brew coming back on the pod. We're doing this thing now. It's ramping back up towards the season, so there'll be more Aaron Brewski on the podcast. We're going to be talking about, this is everybody's favorite topic, whether or not sleepers are truly asleep. Which of the sleepers are no longer sleepers? This is basically who has become such a hype train guy, not a sleeper anymore, but you're actually overbidding for those players. That's going to be the topic on Friday's show with Brew. Cannot wait to get to that one. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be really illuminating as you start to maybe dial a few of those guys back off of your list. Don't draft some of these hype guys because you're going to be paying too much for them. Also, of note, the B150 in the draft guide these days. That happened on Monday. The B150 is in the draft guide. Another reason to go get it. The Brewski 150 stayed up all freaking night, Aaron did, Sunday to Monday. Pulled an all-nighter, doing all the tweaks, all the last-minute adjustments to the B150. ADP reports are coming for the draft guide very soon. Those, I love them. Panda does those bad boys. They are absolutely spectacular. And listener leagues are almost full. If you want to get in, let us know immediately. The drafts start on Friday. Again, for Lord Welsh, Lord Bogman, I'm Dan Besbris. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.